So a few days ago, one of the lead vocalists for Linkin Park committed suicide, Chester Bennington, and a lot of people decided to kind of come out and be like, "Oh, I remember when I was a kid, I loved Linkin Park," or they kind of do a mix thing and say, "Oh, remember way back then when I was all like kind of in my cringe phase that I actually liked Linkin Park, or I was kind of emo and I liked Linkin Park," and they'd always kind of bag on them while praising them, sort of. I was never really like that. I always liked Linkin Park. I always said they were like my number one band, and some people would give me, or my number one favorite band. Some people would always give me shit for saying that, because I would say Linkin Park's my favorite band, Foo Fighters probably number two or whatever, and etc. etc. But I just don't get how people can come out and say, "Oh yeah, I like Linkin Park back then, but I was just a kid and I always thought they were kind of stupid really when I grew up," or whatever. Because even some people who would kind of hate on them would also say, "Yeah, but their first album, Hybrid Theory, was great, and then their second album, Meteora, was kind of okay, but then the rest just sucked, or the rest didn't sound anything like Linkin Park," or whatever. And I will say that Linkin Park did have like a bit of a transition throughout the years and throughout some of their albums, but some of it wasn't a huge transition. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. And like Hybrid Theory, of course, was great. I liked every single song on that except for that one, the second to last song, which was just like a kind of an instrumental type thingy. It was okay, it was whatevs. And then the second album, Meteora, it was pretty similar to the first in terms of style. But there were a few songs on that one that I didn't really care for. You know, they were okay, but definitely wouldn't, replay them over and over. Then they had their third album, which was Minutes to Midnight, I believe. Let me double check. Yes, Minutes to Midnight. And it came out in 2007. So there was like a 4-year gap there. Hybrid Theory was 2000. Meteor was 2003. Minutes to Midnight was 2007. So Minutes to Midnight, that was really, really different from normal Linkin Park stuff. Because Linkin Park was more like a metal rap type mixture, like a hybrid type thingy. That's kind of like where Hybrid Theory came from, I believe. But Minutes to Midnight seemed more of an old-fashioned kind of just plain rock and roll thing. Of course, there was still a little bit of rap here and there, but not too much, and it wasn't like full-on metal. There were a few songs that still felt kind of original Linkin Park-ish, but most of it felt like just kind of like 70s, 80s rock and roll, kind of. Then after Minutes to Midnight, there's 1,000 Suns, and that one was actually really freaking good in my opinion. It was a bit light, like it had more instrumental type stuff compared to lyrics, but it was still really, really good, and the whole track just flowed on because there was like little buffers in between each song that would kind of flow from one song to the other. I really enjoyed that. Some people might not have, but it still felt kind of Linkin Park-esque with the rap metal, but at the same time it had more of a shift to the like electronic type of music that they started evolving to, I guess you can say. And then Living Things came on after that, which was, because 1,000 Suns was 2010, Living Things was 2012. Living Things is actually probably my second or third favorite album after Hybrid Theory and Meteora. I'm not sure if it'd go past Meteora or where it would fit, but Living Things was really, really good, and it was still a little bit more electronic, kind of like 1,000 Suns, but it still felt, I think it felt more rap metal, like the original Linkin Park, than 1,000 Suns or definitely Minutes to Midnight. Then The Hunting Party, it was kind of like Living Things a little bit. It just came out 2 years later in 2014. But there were some more lower end, like smooth, low-key songs. And then Linkin Park started to transition to that. And then their last album, which came out this year, was One More Light. Most of that was pretty low-key and, I don't want to say subtle, but, just low end, man. It wasn't like the hardcore, metal type stuff that they usually have. They didn't have a ton of rapping. It was just more singing, I guess, and smooth instrumentals. And I didn't really like it too much. There were like 2 or 3 songs that I really liked on it, but it was like it didn't get me amped up, I guess. And so Linkin Park has had a transformation over the years, a bit of a transition from one type to another. Minutes to Midnight definitely felt like the most out there, but then there was like a more of a smooth transition from the other albums, from one album to the others. But Linkin Park was still always my favorite band, and I never was afraid to say that. Well, maybe I was a little bit afraid, but I was still behind it, and I was like, nah, man, Linkin Park, I love Linkin Park. So then when all this news came out about how Chester committed suicide, and then everybody started coming out saying, oh yeah, I like Linkin Park, it just kind of pissed me off how people started coming out once he committed suicide as fans, or how they would say that they were kind of fans but still kind of bash Linkin Park, as I already said. But also, they actually did a reaction, I think it was the Teens React to Linkin Park on, the Fine Bros channel. And a lot of people there, some people, really liked Linkin Park. Some people were just like, oh, whatevs. Or they didn't really realize it was Linkin Park because of how much of a transformation they've made over the years. But there were a few that like really, really hated on Linkin Park and were even saying, oh, like my friends would hate me if I liked this type of music, even though I kind of like it. Which is freaking incredibly annoying as, a musical fan, or as a person who likes music, which everybody really likes some type of music, but I understand that some people would hate on others for liking a type of music. Usually it's more of a pop type music because it's all manufactured, Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, all that kind of BS. But when it's an actual band that plays all their own music and like writes all their own music and stuff, like Linkin Park, I think they write all their own music, but I know that they play all their own music, then I think it's kind of BS to say, you shouldn't like them or whatever. I can kind of understand hating on the more manufactured stuff, but still, I understand if you like it, you like it, you like how it sounds, that's totally fine. But, I just don't really get the hate. Because this guy's like yelling or screaming during some of the songs. I guess some people really hated the whole screamo thing and thought it was kind of a phase at one point, although they've been doing it for like 17 years. And even when you read some of the lyrics, you understand why they have done some of the transformation or transitioning from album to album. And their lyrics actually have like meaning. It's not just BS that they just kind of fit into their melody to make it rhyme or whatever. But I've just always been a massive Linkin Park fan, and I always wanted to see them live, and now I'll never get a chance to, which really, really sucks. But I don't know, what are you gonna do, I guess. But then yeah, it was like really, once I heard the news, I read a little bit more about it, and it was like really messed up how I heard that One More Light, one of the singles from their latest album, was actually about suicide. And then on one of their last performances on Jimmy Kimmel Live, they play that song for one of their friends, who I believe was a musician who committed suicide. I forgot his name because I wasn't a fan of his, but anyways, and when they were playing the song, Chester was actually like really choked up, and he even missed some of the ending parts because he just couldn't really get through it. And Mike, the other lead vocalist, actually did an interview a little bit later that like barely came out. I guess they just rushed it out the day that they found out that the news Chester committed suicide. They rushed out this interview, put it on YouTube, and he was explaining why they decided to play that song, because they were originally going to play a different song to kind of promote their album, but they switched to One More Light, and then they were kind of explaining why Chester, missed some of the lyrics at the end. But I don't know, man. I just had to make a little vlog about Linkin Park because I've always liked them. And this, I know this is mostly like an American-based channel where I talk about American related things, but this is also just my personal channel where I want to do personal vlogs or vlogs that come to mind that I have to talk about. And I just wanted to talk about this. I just had to, man. And like, I've never really I was never like a bandwagoner Linkin Park fan. Like I said, I kind of might have hit it sometimes here and there because I was, didn't want to cause a huge ass argument, didn't want people to hate on me. But I actually got like merchandise. Like I actually had Linkin Park T-shirt. I actually bought every single one of their full albums, not the remix albums. I did have like one of the remix albums. I didn't get any of the live albums. But I was a pretty good fan. I wasn't like a hardcore Linkin Park fan. I didn't have Linkin Park Underground, but I knew of it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. So yeah. And if you like Linkin Park, you can always leave a comment. Tell me what you think, I guess, about all this news. And I don't know, just comment anything Linkin Park related, I guess. But that's it. That's all I got to say. See you guys later.